Hi, Irish Menopause, Monday afternoon. I'm joined by Sinead from Health for You. You may be familiar with her name. I discovered Sinead a while ago, and we're sort of, of the same mind of the whole gut connection, menopause, health, etc. So I was thinking, let's do this, let's have a chat. And Sinead, absolutely, she wants to do this as well. What we're seeing in the community is there's a lot of people that hormones, for example, if they're taking them, don't always fix everything. And I know that I'm guilty of not understanding this myself years ago and thought hormones are hormones. But then I realized the gut-brain axis, and I've put a lot of work into my own gut, as a lot of you know. And Sinead is going to talk with us about that. So I suppose in relatable terms, without getting medical or using terms, every woman out there in menopause will be familiar with weight gain. Bloating is a big one, fatigue, joint pain, and then there's the mental health aspect. This is sort of intertwined because, yes, some of those things can be hormones and HRT will fix it, but sometimes it doesn't. And we need to look a bit deeper. So if we keep it simply, if your issues are because of hormones, then if you replace the hormones, it should resolve, assuming you're on the right dose. And if not, then we like to look deeper. So Sinead, you're very, very welcome. And by the way, everyone, Sinead is a nurse. She has a medical background. And Sinead, your expertise before you went the functional nutritional approach was you were in gastro, was it?
Yeah, so hi everyone. I was a nurse specialist in gastrointestinal disorders for years. So GI, the gut has always been a big thing for me. And part of that role, a lot of it would have been, I was a stoma nurse. So when people had surgery, they had a colostomy, ileostomy, urostomy.
What's that in English, Sinead, a stoma?
So a stoma, so it's where their bowel is redirected onto their tummy for maybe bowel cancer, inflammatory bowel disease, all sorts of colitis, Crohn's, these kind of very debilitating illnesses, which you can manage very well naturally. And sometimes people will need to have surgical intervention or medical intervention. But I suppose a huge part of my role at that time would have been educating people with food, because again, when somebody has a stoma, you can get blocked depending on certain foods that you might eat.
Wow, okay, yeah.
And I thought I knew quite a lot about food, but when I decided myself to go and study nutrition, and I studied naturopathic nutrition and therapy.
Good.
But I look back now, my God, I really knew nothing about food, and I knew nothing about how food impacts on the body.
Yeah.
And it's huge, the impact that our diet and our lifestyle, everything, a combination of everything, holistically looking at things, has on us. But I also worked then as a research nurse in the area of the microbiome. So that's the gut bacteria. And we have microbiome,
isn't it? And it's still, they're still learning about the microbiome. Will they ever know the whole thing? Probably not.
We won't. It's like the gut. So we have microbiome all over our body, but the gut is the most extensively studied microbiome. And we know an awful lot more about it. And it's out there a long, long time, but we still out in society don't know what we need to know.
It's not in our face though, Sinead. Like it's like lots of stuff in menopause world. If you go looking, you'll find it, no problem. But we're not educated on this.
No.
And I suppose we all, remember from growing up, we have to eat our veg, a bit of fruit, a bit of meat, a bit of spuds. So much deeper than that. And the whole gut-brain axis. And I've realised myself over the years, it's the central engine, isn't it? And if the gut isn't right, nothing will be right.
Oh, totally. I say that to my clients all the time. The gut is more important than your heart, because if it's not functioning properly, it's a domino effect across your whole body. And like you were mentioning, some of the symptoms that people get, and the weight, weight is huge for everybody, right? Let's face it, most people, we want to feel comfortable in our bodies, right? We want to just feel better, look better. And look, that's just the way society is. It can be a little bit of, whatever.
But it's for health as well. It's not about appearance. Yeah.
No, exactly. It is. It's for your health. But you can't maintain weight loss by being on restricted diets or not eating the right type of foods. And it's why it never stays off for people. So if you're, and often it'll come back on and it'll double or treble the amount of weight they put on. But if you're doing things right and eating the right foods to support your gut, and your gut is able to get rid of the waste material that it needs to, and it's able to help deliver to cleanse and get rid of toxins, that's when you get natural weight loss, right? Your hormones balance, your blood sugars are balanced, it stops affecting, because your blood sugars are affecting all your sex hormones, you know. So you do it naturally, and the weight comes naturally. The weight loss will come naturally, or weight gain. Like there's people who are trying to gain weight
I
because they're
want to
not.
just jump in on what you said to
Yeah.
reiterate it. Your blood sugars affect your sex hormones.
Oh,
Because let's
massively.
face
Yeah.
it, we're talking to a menopause community here. We need to remember this.
Mm-hmm.
And hugely, your menopausal symptoms way worse with the wrong food. And I think it's important we understand that. Thanks for saying that.
Very, very important, because our whole body, it's the whole endocrine system, and your endocrine system is your blood sugar balance, it's your thyroid, and it's your cortisol, your stress. So you got a lot of stress, and we all do, let's face it, we all have stress going on in our daily life. Yeah. That cortisol is impacting on our weight. And where do we put that weight on? The tummy, and that's from cortisol. So that the gut-brain connection is really important, because sometimes it's the brain-gut connection. For some people is more important than trying to manage the gut-brain connection. But yeah, so you've got your blood sugar balance in your endocrine system. You have blood sugar, you have your thyroid, you have your cortisol, you have all your sex hormones. And if one is impacted, it impacts them all, you know. So it's really about kind of keeping balanced, eating the right foods, and that will keep you feeling full. That don't.
What are the right foods, Sinead? Because I know there'll be women watching this going, yeah, but what are the right foods?
What are the right foods? So like you were talking about your fruit and veg, Sallyanne, so they're really important for your gut health, because they're your pre and probiotic foods. So your fist, so everyone has a different portion size.
Portion, yeah.
This is my portion size. Your fist will be a different size for you, but that's a portion. We need 7 portions of fruit and veg a day, right? And that's difficult to do, and I get that. Not for everybody, but for some people. But there are things like having smoothies or soups. You can get huge amount of portions in that way, and that's increasing your portion size for the day. But that will feed the good gut bacteria. I suppose what sometimes happens for people is they might be eating the right foods, they might not be eating enough of them, or they might have something going on like a bacterial overgrowth, and that's not allowing them to absorb the nutrients they have.
Okay, so you say bacterial overgrowth. Do you mean SIBO? What are you talking here?
SIBO, or there can be just pathogens that are there, because again, and I know I'm kind of going off of what I was talking about a second ago.
No, you're fine. I'm trying to cover as much as we can so people will understand.
Can understand. Yeah. So like our microbiome depletes when we are sick, whether that's cold, flu, a virus. And when we're talking about viruses, we're talking about things like chickenpox, measles, mumps, COVID, things we all had as a child. You might not feel like it's impacting on you, but it depletes your good gut bacteria. And if you don't replenish that, over time, your gut lining breaks down. And this is eventually when symptoms start to come through. So you might be sick today because of something that happened 10 or 15 years ago.
It's hard to imagine, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And this is why people don't, and if we don't understand the microbiome, it is hard for people to understand. And yes, you're right, education, it needs to start. We need to understand that from babies up, you know. And until it hits our educational curriculum, it's very difficult to get that ingrained in people. People are understanding it a bit better, but these are things that need to be in our curriculum. I mean, they still teach the food pyramid. And I mean, the food pyramid is long gone, you know. So there's a lot of changes that has to happen, you know, but it's huge. What was I saying there? Now I'm going off.
No, you're okay, but that's a key point you've made there, that like problems from the past, you carry them with you, with the gut, that is. So, you know, if you had for example, am I right in saying this? If you had a major food poison on your holidays 5 years ago, that could be affecting you today and giving you sore elbows.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's where your joint pain might be coming from, or your bloating or whatever, because it mightn't have initially, you might have been sick at the time and then got a bit better. But over time, throw other things into the thing, we get stressed, that depletes our microbiome. We're on antibiotics, we're on steroids, we're on contraceptive pill, we're on medication for depression or anxiety. These all impact our gut microbiome. And if you need them, you know, if you need your medication, that's fine. But what you need to know then is how to try and counteract that as much as you can by making sure that you're eating the right foods to try and replenish that microbiome, you know.
And I know women listening to this might automatically think, oh, I better take a good probiotic. What's your feeling on probiotics, Sinead? Because they're very common, very popular.
course it is, and it's hard for people to understand when you don't know and you don't understand the different things. And look, life is hard. You walk into a chemist, a health shop, there's stuff all in front of you, right? And 3 for 2, and buy one get one
70
free.
million bacteria strains. This will fix
Yeah,
everything. Yeah, yeah.
and it's really hard. But one, diet always comes first. So probiotics, so supplements, yes, they can help, right? But they're as a boost. You know, that's like it's not, they're sticky plaster, and you shouldn't be on them forever. You need to sort your gut. You have to get to the root cause of what's happening. And it's when that gut starts to heal that you really start to see what's going on underneath the surface. But with probiotics, unless you have a stool test in front of you that tells you which part of your microbiome you're depleted in, you're kind of blindly taking them. So you might take one that you actually already have enough of that strain of bacteria, and now you can end up with an overgrowth. So yes, I would have a lot of clients who've come to me who they think they're doing all the best will in the world. They think they're doing themselves right, but actually, and they keep taking it because they think they're doing the right thing, and they don't know any different. And so and this is where education is really important. But their symptoms are getting worse and worse and worse, and that's because they end up with a bacterial overgrowth. So, you know, and there's different strains, there's different types. That probiotics are manufactured in different ways. There's some probiotics that are manufactured that the capsule, it's encapsulated, that it doesn't dissolve until it reaches your small intestine. You know, so if you've got a probiotic and you take it, and it might be a very good probiotic for you, Sallyanne, but maybe I take it and it doesn't get to my small intestine, and then it doesn't work, so it's not effective for me. You know, so again, we're all different. It's absorption, it's our metabolism, it's our symptoms. So it's looking at your symptoms to see, have things improved for you? And if you are taking something and your symptoms have not improved or they've gotten worse, but that's not the one for you. But also you need to be making sure you're doing it through your diet as well and your lifestyle. You know,
it's very hard, Sinead, because as you said and I said, we're not educated, and nobody ever mentions the gut. And you know, I'm a true believer in you are what you eat. And I think if we could all sort of think about that, and you can see the improvements in your health. And I know part of the work you do as well, and this whole histamine area. Like, I mean, histamine nearly always, but not always, comes from a gut issue. Yeah.
Yeah, look, because the majority of the time it is, so it's stemming from something. So they all do, no matter histamine.
Histamine is just a big word for something that's wrong. Yeah.
It's like a blanket diagnosis. It's like IBS, fibromyalgia. It's not like, there's something underneath that, and until you start to heal your gut, you don't get to see what is the true cause, what's happening underneath, what's after bringing these symptoms up in the first place, you know. And genetics is huge, and it's not just about the physical side, it's the trauma. So our microbiome is our genetics, and we can't change our DNA, but we can change how our body reads our DNA.
Yeah.
And that's epigenetics. And that's, like, I find epigenetics fascinating.
It's brilliant. Your genetics love the gun, your lifestyle pulls the trigger. We can manipulate them. It's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, and we prevent illness for ourselves, and then for people who haven't had children, they can change the DNA for the generations ahead of them. You know, there's so much that we can do, you know, with our health, looking at these things. But again, if you think about trauma alone, and trauma is something we might not know about, because if you go back all our ancestors, we can't know about it all, and trauma is huge. So, and again, in your genetics with the trauma, that is something that can affect.
What do you mean by trauma is huge? You mean it affects the microbiome?
It affects the microbiome, yeah. So that's part. So we're not just carrying genetics of physical, we're carrying and that's the nervous system. So the trauma is going to impact your nervous system, which is impacting your gut. So like you're in a catch-22 sometimes with your gut and your brain connection, but it's really important to support both of them. And that's why for some people, we actually have to zone in more on the brain gut connection rather than that gut brain connection.
I can see, Sinead, that you love untangling this stuff, root cause, and sometimes that's what we need as humans, isn't it? The body works as a whole. I mean, and I'd always be of that curious nature of, I have a sore foot, but why? You know, it's all about, you know, Western medicine is about fixing things, really. And I suppose your approach now is don't let it happen in the first place, preventative. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, because, and that's the way I would see life. Why and everybody has their own, you know, opinions and way they're going to be in life. But for me, the way I would always work my life, and within my nursing career, why would you not prevent something that you can? I can't understand sitting back and letting something happen to you. I've always been very much about prevention. Prevention is always better than cure. You know, why go through hell when you could have stopped it from happening in the first place? If I had known so much more, understood so much more about health, there's a lot of hormone you know, things for me that my life could have been easier. My fertility journey could have been easier. My perimenopause journey could have been easier had I have understood things an awful lot more, because I could have, from a young age, I could have prevented these severities from happening. I mightn't have been able to stop them totally, but I might have prevented the severity.
You might have known, you could have helped yourself a bit more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's important. We don't know enough about it, like science doesn't know enough about it, but we know we have hormone receptors in the microbiome. So sometimes a woman who has a perfect lifestyle, perfect gut and perfect diet, that can be messed around when perimenopause hits. So don't ever assume, and I'm guilty of that, by the way, going back here, go, no, I've no gut issues. I never had IBS or any of that stuff. But the hormones, it's the seismic shift can create this, I'm not saying will, and I know there'll be women who watch this don't have these problems, and that's fine. But I suppose what we're trying to do, and we're going to do more of these videos as well, is just to help to give you ideas. For example, I do see a lot of commentary about women who say things jokingly like, I look 6 months pregnant. That's a sign, isn't it? There's something wrong in the gut. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
what might be wrong
now,
there if you look 6 months pregnant?
Very often it is a bacterial overgrowth. There's definitely pathogens going on there somewhere. And I know, again, like you say, they might get bloated at certain times and taking different types of HRT, but it's an imbalance. There's something not right there. And it's trying to find out what is happening. But yeah, it is. It's coming back to gut issues there. And for some people, it'll clear quite quickly once they start working on their gut health. And for other people, it's a longer journey because it's something that may have stemmed right back. You know, right back into their genetics.
Isn't it? Like to think that maybe something happened when you were before 10 years old and now it's coming back to bite you. Yeah, but look, we all know perimenopause and menopause are cruel, and hormones are the foundation for health and gut. Okay.
And I think, because the other thing too, Sallyanne, and that's what I find an awful lot in the last, I suppose, year and a bit. Now, I knew this because of myself, what had happened to me. But COVID and long COVID is huge, and long COVID has pushed people into perimenopause. And again, it has massively impacted gut health.
I was just about to say that there's a lot of science about gut issues post-COVID.
Huge, it's huge. But you can see it, like you can see what's happening for people, you know, just even through what I have seen symptom-wise coming through with people. And there's more and more strains of COVID all the time. You know, and it's definitely in the last 6 months, I've seen another shift and another huge shift with people who worked on their gut and they've been re-exposed to COVID, and they're not back at, because when you've healed your gut and you're back in place, you're in a better space. But it doesn't mean that it can't be impacted. It can, but you should heal quicker. But yeah, it is hugely impacting them. So these strains are out there all the time, and yes, like things can happen with the vaccines, right? And vaccines have also pushed people into perimenopausal symptoms. But I'm not, you know, and I don't like to talk about for and against with any of these things. I think
it is what it is.
And you have to be educated. But the fact of the matter is that there's so many things that happened pre-vaccine. Absolutely pre-vaccine. Before any vaccinations were made, we could see.
Yeah, we can't just pick on one thing and blame it.
No, there was a shift from COVID. You could see it, and you could see it increasingly, you know, getting worse and worse, and the gut issues and hormone, because I think it's huge. I know it certainly pushed me into perimenopause. It pushed me further. I was already had started my journey, but it definitely made things worse.
I'd never have thought, like going way back, that gut health was anything to do with the rest of me, because my stomach is my stomach and my arm is my arm. And I know even when I sort of discovered this, I kind of thought, nah, you know, your stomach is separate. It's really not. It's really not. And we do all need to just have ingrained in our brains that your hormones and your gut are connected. And the way I know it's not this simple, but I've said this already. If your problems are hormones, it should fix them, assuming you're not on the a really high dose of HRT that's bloating you. That's another thing, by the way. If you take too much estrogen, you can get bloated. But we need to look at gut. You know, you need to ask yourself, why am I constipated, or having diarrhea intermittently? That's not right. Or, you know, every time I eat my dinner, I have to open my trousers because I swell. Like, it's all well and good saying it'll be grand, I'll take whatever, it'll be gone tomorrow, but it's a sign there's something imbalanced.
Absolutely. Or heartburn, reflux, you know, wind, loads of wind or gas, or a very strong odor. Like, these are all things that there's something going on. You know,
Strong
you're going
odor, where? Body odor? What do you mean, breath?
oh yeah, both body odor, but also from your bowel. Like, so when
Yes,
somebody is gas, they can have very strong odor too. And I guess, I suppose, Irish people don't particularly like talking about toiletry habits. People
of
are still
course.
very private. Like, my household is funny. My kids would be talking about anything and everything, and people, I'm sure, are probably looking at us, but we would just talk about bowel habits as that's a
Look,
norm in our house.
it's
And you know, it should,
important. It's an important part of us being
yeah.
humans.
Think back to years ago about grandparents or whoever, like, and I know they were obsessed with people having bowel habits, and they probably gave things that they shouldn't have done that were quite extreme, but they were thinking about the right thing. It's really important about clearing, keeping your waste material moving. Think about an animal. What happens after an animal eats? What do they do very soon after? They'll defecate. And why? Because that's what nature intended. Nature intends to get rid of the waste and absorb the nutrients and the minerals, right? All your vitamins, minerals. So
You
it's the
don't
same.
want it just sitting there, you know, becoming like this
Stagnating.
excuse, you know, but like fermenting, and you know, a septic tank. No wonder you're
Yeah.
tired. Um,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
Sinead, I'm aware of time here, and we are going to do more of these. And ladies watching this is, you know, on the group now. So please, you can post questions, and myself or Sinead, all the questions will be at Sinead. To be fair, she's the nurse here, I'm not. Put them in the comments, and Sinead will pick them up as she goes along. Okay. So please do ask your questions, and also just open your mind a little bit if you can. That could this be gut? And Sinead, what will we talk about next time, do you think? Is there anything that's
I mean,
jumping
there's
out
so
at
much,
you?
isn't there, that you can talk. There's so much you can
I
talk about,
know.
isn't there?
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think?
Well,
Or
do you
what would
know
the
what
women
we'll
like to
do
focus
then?
on? Why don't the ladies put in the comments what they'd like to talk about?
Just about to say that. Yeah. So, ladies watching, what do you want to focus on next time? And we do another one of these. Sinead is the boss here now. This is her expertise. And Sinead, just to say to you as well, I have suggested your name to some people, and I know you're getting amazing results. So, hats off to you, because it doesn't
Yeah.
always work that way. And I know you're determined. It's very
I
important.
am, but I support and guide people, Sallyanne. It's up to people. It's people who do put the work in, get the results. They really do. And it's not that it's that hard. It's changing the mindset to do it. But once you get used to doing it, and that's when people will see those results, you know.
Yeah. And I suppose human nature, and we're all guilty of it. We all want a quick fix, don't we?
Yeah, of course we do. God, if I could take a magic pill for anything, I would too. That's life for humans. But we all know at the back of our mind, we know that it's not really going to work. We know that we need to put the work into it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. We leave it at that, because I know the longer videos people get bored. So please pop questions for Sinead into the chat box. She will answer them when she can. Not the chat box, the comments, sorry. And Sinead, it's been a pleasure as usual, and I look forward to the next one.
Thank you, Sallyanne. Thank you,
You're
everyone.
welcome. You're welcome.